runs, works. So welcome to our webinar, and let me show the title again. Give me a second. Introducing Vanilla Manager. And with me is Christopher Branston. He is our dedicated sales and community manager with Cloudical. Christopher, great to have you with me here.
Great to be with you, because I can tell you, as the community manager for Vanilla Stack, wow, there's been some commotion and questions. I'm figuring people are just waiting for a show like this, where we go public with all the great information, with great technology, with what's new. So I'm looking forward to the next about hour to see Vanilla Stack live and in action, ask a lot of strange and weird questions, and hopefully you explaining everything.
Me? Okay, I happily do that. I happily do that. So first of all, we've managed to check all the audio issues, so I do not see any complaints. We are live on several platforms now. If you have questions, feel free to join us on Zoom. If not, you can also ask questions on platforms. Maybe we see them, maybe not. But yes, Christopher, we have one very important thing to talk about today, and that is Vanilla Manager. Perhaps we should start by giving a very short overview of the idea of why do we actually need something like Vanilla Manager. So I'm going to do that if you don't mind. So before showing anything, keeping the tension high.
Maybe let me ask the first question.
Awesome. Go ahead.
What do we need Vanilla Manager for, Karsten?
Oh, that is a great question. I'm glad you asked. Basically, let's touch a bit on what Vanilla Stack is. Vanilla Stack is Kubernetes plus many additional things. And as with every Kubernetes, you have to execute a lot of management tasks. So first of all, you need to be aware of the status of your cluster or clusters. Touch on that in a few seconds. Secondly, you want to roll out your workloads in a simple and sophisticated way by being able to just add some specific parameters, and then you would want to be just ready to go. Well, to be honest, you don't need something like Vanilla Manager for that. You can do that with all the integrated tools of Vanilla Stack. Yes, please, go ahead. Ask your question.
Question. Karsten, what's the difference between the Vanilla installer and the Vanilla Manager at that point?
Well, how do I put that? With the Vanilla installer, you install Vanilla Stack, plus some of the very, very fundamental tools you need to have in place, such as storage, such as perhaps some operational tools, stuff like that. And you install Vanilla Manager using Vanilla installer. Once you've done your installation, once your cluster is up and running, you want to, again, manage, have an overview of what's going on, install workload, stuff like that. And you need to be able to do that with a dedicated tool. And you wouldn't want to something like Vanilla installer for that, because that's the installer. You would want to use something like Vanilla Manager for that. So that is basically the main difference. With installer, you just install, and with manager, you just manage. The manager is not able to install a new cluster. You do that by then firing up a new installer. So that is the basic idea. That's the basic approach that we have there. And that is basically how we would proceed from there and how we would see things there. So now, before we unveil Vanilla Manager, and that's what I just wanted to do before the awesome question came up. Before we unveil Vanilla Manager to the public, let's face it, you would actually don't need something like Vanilla Manager if you would be like truly a hardcore kind of operational and management guy for such a platform, because Vanilla Stack, we've said that quite often.
I focus.
Yes, Vanilla Stack, and we said that quite often, is vanilla Kubernetes plus extra. So you can always use your kubectl or something like Helm or stuff like that for your management work. But you know what? Even operators, even the guys sitting at the wheel and steering things, even those guys would need and would want to have a graphical tool from time to time. And the less you are really a hardcore kind of administrator on the platform, the more you want to have such a tool in place. And that is why we brought in Vanilla Manager there. But you know what, Chris? I need to tell you.
What?
I need to tell you something.
Oh God. Okay.
You know, do you sit straight? Are you able to breathe? Okay, I tell you.
Okay.
We haven't written a single line of code for Vanilla Manager. Because no, hear me out. No, we did not copy anything. We just took the same approach as we did with the other projects within Vanilla Stack, and did not try to reinvent the wheel. We instead tried to use the best already existing open source frameworks on the market and integrate them with each other, because that is the idea behind Vanilla Stack. It's not like us setting up the next, I don't know, open core, whatever version of Kubernetes that is just pretending to be something special. No, we use the thing that is already special enough. And we did the same for Vanilla Manager. So Vanilla Manager, and we need to be very honest on that, is not written by us. Vanilla Manager is used by us. It is, in fact, a product called Stratos, which has been developed by which has been developed by awesome and great and big community of open source enthusiasts. And Stratos is actually, if you are, for example, into Cloud Foundry, you might have heard already of Stratos. Stratos is a tool or is the tool where you manage your Cloud Foundry instance with. But rest assured, you can use, and actually that's what I'm going to showcase today, you can use Stratos even without Cloud Foundry.
Might I take like one step back within this kind of discussion line of arguments that you are building? Actually, you are just displaying one of the main benefits of open source, and why open source also in an enterprise context, especially if you build your own software, your own product, your own service, is an absolute multiplicator. Because it isn't, or we wouldn't probably be as open and honest about using a collaborative project at this point if that wasn't meant to be this way. So one of the really, really great things about open source and open source projects is that a lot of projects have little bits and pieces that are put together in some certain way. But it's basically the daily business of developers, of communities behind open source to take these bits and pieces and rearrange them to something new, which then is a new flavor, like, for example, vanilla.
I could not have said it any better. So, Chris, what do you think? Shall we reveal how things look like?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I would, because also maybe touching on the topic of our good old command line interface versus a web UI or generally a graphical user interface. I'm pretty much at the point of live and let be. You know, everybody should work the way she or he feels most productive and you know, feels the best, the safest, the most knowledgeable. That's all okay. But what we're doing here, doing with a topic like Vanilla Stack, is enabling cloud-like infrastructure or cloud-like systems. And as we do know, the sprawl of different people, different users, different pieces of software, different databases, you know, it grows with the cloud. And what we have learned in many different studies by testing different stuff is that visualization helps. I do understand that somebody who wants to do a very, very streamlined process, like I need to deploy a VM with a certain name, certain amount of RAM and disk space, might want to use the terminal, because that really, you know, you have certain commands you can put in, it starts running and it's all good. But if I'm talking a lot of different software and apps, if I'm talking a lot of different users from a lot of different entry points, if I'm talking hybrid systems where I need to connect my own on-premise workflows with the cloud, with another cloud system, with another company, with somewhere in the supply chain, wherever it is, then visualization helps us a lot. And that is what Stratus does in a very, very great way. It streamlines visually 2 buttons and menus, the different functionality you can use within your own cloud infrastructure that you've just deployed.
I could not agree more, and I don't have to add anything here. Let's reveal the thing. Wait a second. I actually obviously pressed the wrong thing here. No, that is, I wanted to go there. There we go. I centered a bit more, so it is a bit better visible. So this is the console, starting point of Stratos, and I now press the login button. You know what? Part of being true is basically we didn't even change the name of the product, which would have been perhaps quite obvious to do, but we did not want to do that. So what I'm doing now is I'm logging into Stratos, and I'm doing that not by entering email and password here. I could do that, but I use instead the already existing and deployed keycloak feature, which is obviously not working at this great moment. Awesome. Give me a second. We start that again.
Good login, bad gateway.
That's always a great thing. We try that again. Ooh, does not work. That is bad. That is truly bad, because that is actually what I wanted to showcase here. Then
this
we
is
do that.
Really, really good, because if it would have just worked, people would think we're playing this video of the demo or something. No, this is live. This is, you know, we're showing our live system, so it can happen that sometimes stuff doesn't work. But also maybe then to touch on the topic of why didn't we change, or why would we change the name of the tool that we're using? I think we shouldn't, because for one, it's open source, and you know we can show what we're using. It's no secret. The source is open. That's why it's called open source. But also we do not want to change the name at that point, because that might bring others on board. You know, if you're seeing, hey, these guys at Vanilla Stack are using Stratos in a really, really cool way, I might want to apply that to my own software, my own stack, my own tool, whatever it is. Yes, please feel free, because the more people that use a great solution, the better the solutions get, and the better it is for me as an end user, because I have great solutions to use.
Again, could not agree more. As of now, I'm pretty much, unfortunately, a bit unable to showcase what I'm doing. I'm trying to in the back end restart the pod, because it's just the Ingress pod that has stopped working properly. But perhaps perhaps we could use that time, if we can do that, to answer questions and to ultimately try to give a clearer picture of what is going on there. Please go ahead.
So maybe I do have a technical question. I'm not the tech guy, but you just said, oh, wow, my pod died. I have to restart it. Do I take from that actually the great thing is the front end at the moment, or the little login window might not work for some reason, but the rest of my system is still up and running, which to me seems pretty great. Because we don't have like these all system blowing errors that, you know, one thing goes wrong and everything is down, and basically I have to reboot a whole server or a server farm at that point. But there is basically containerization in the background that works very modular. Did I get that right?
Absolutely. Even if something like our keycloak, for example, which is the backend authentication mechanism we have here, is not working anymore. What was visible still was the starting page, for example, of Stratos was available. So it was basically still running. That's one of the beauties of having containerized software in place. Even if something crashes, even if something goes wrong, whatever reason, you are able to ultimately still work with the platform. In our case, unfortunately, as long as I haven't restarted the Ingress pod there or the keycloak, I would need to look into that. As long as I haven't restarted that, I might not be able to utilize all the functionality that is there, obviously, but all the other workloads that are there, all the other tools that are deployed would still continue to work. That's a different approach than, say, a traditional kind of server, where you would basically and ultimately be in a situation trapped and would have to restart everything. Here, it is ultimately about restarting perhaps that one functionality, and then it comes back to life. There was several years ago, 3 years ago, if I remember properly, there was like 3 years ago a major outage with Amazon's website, and nobody noticed. The Amazon website is a typical example of how such containerized and such microservice-based workloads work. So it appears as if it was one thing, but it is ultimately consisting of a multitude of platforms and things that are then ultimately just, you know, to some extent magically brought together, although there's not even any kind of magic in there. It's just, you know, something that is handled by infrastructure. And with that platform, their central billing and central checkout functionality just broke away, and it just broke away, and nothing was there. But most of the potential customers didn't even realize, since all of the other functionality you had in place, such as putting things into your basket, like searching, like commenting on things, rating, whatever, all of those functionalities still persisted to work and still were, you know, in place. Obviously was not so happy about it, so they tried obviously to fix that as soon as possible, but nonetheless, the actual also the actual fix was basically brought in place, and it then just magically, in quotation mark, started to work again. So that was to some extent a real life showcase to the world of the power of microservices and containerized workloads. The point is, we have that with Vanilla Stack at our disposal. We have exactly the same functionality in place. And actually, even our Vanilla Manage or Stratos, which is still not working, I'm checking over and over again, is basically set up the exact same way. So it could happen that our backend basically stops working as it is here, and it would not affect anything on the platform.
Yeah, you know, we also in IT we always use this word scalability, and in a lot of the messaging I've seen, no, scalability always only knows one direction, which is up, more, out, more. But actually, if we think about it, in a use case like we have here with containerizations or with containerized systems, scalability is about placing the right amount of resource where it's needed in the time that it's needed. And that's actually much more scalability, which goes in all directions. It can go up, it can go down, or it can go sideways. And that, because a lot of companies I've been talking to, do we do all these IT processes? Why are we buying new hardware, cloudification? Why are we using so much technology? A lot of the times the goal should be agility. And if we now combine scalability and agility as actually then kind of the end of the line, much more as kind of the beginning of the thought, because a lot of people say, well, we'll be agile, we'll have the right mindset and buy a server and deploy something on it and then it will work. But actually you need to think the other way around. You need to think about, okay, why do we want to be agile? What are we going to be using to be agile? And where will it be needed at which point in time? And how does this make sense? And like very, very granular or containerized systems can help us achieve that goal a lot
exactly. Better. I have good news. It looks as if, at least on one occasion, I get it working. Let me check that, and then we can basically.
You know, the thing, it's called Stratos, you know. And another guy who likes to play with space stuff is Elon Musk, and every second of his rockets just goes up in flames in the sky. You know, it's the naming and the kind of space theme that we're following. We just want to be, cool.
Give me a second. I need to switch over to a different browser. It is quite an interesting thing we've seen here. But nonetheless, it's going to work in a second. Where are we? There we are.
So taking this back, Karsten, because I think this is a really, really great example. Let's think about this. You know, I'm a user. I might remember this webinar or other webinars talking about great stuff like Kubernetes, great stuff like Cloud Foundry, Stratos, whatever it is. And something like this happens to me. What do I do in a case like that as an end user? And even if I don't have own very, very versatile people like we have here and like you are in a technical sense, is there a way I can get help?
Yes, that is a very good question. And as you see, I already have been able to at least get something on the screen again. So what you do in such occasions, first of all, you understand and are able to understand that basically that kind of platform that you are running at is, as every container platform, a very complex kind of thing. That should not scare you, not at all, but it is something that you need to keep in mind. So what you do if something goes wrong, you reach out to us. We provide you with several ways of approaching us. The simplest way would basically, and I just showcased that screen again here, to drop, for example, Christopher or me an email and to reach out to us. We have a way bigger team, obviously, but that is basically the most simplistic way of doing such things. And then you would basically describe your issue. The same could happen with the installation. It is always something like, you work with those things and you expect some sort of defined underpinning, and perhaps something is missing or something is configured the wrong way on the underlying infrastructure. Things could break. You just reach out and we get in touch with each other and we support you. And that is basically also the idea behind a community-driven approach, to just do those things and to ensure that the ones that want to use a platform actually are able to use the platform. So that is what we do here, what we did here, and that is basically how I get help. Frankly, even I need from time to time support. I reach out to the team pretty much the same way. Okay, I tell you one secret. I have a more direct communicating with the team than perhaps some external user, but that is a different story. The point being is, you just reach out and we help you.
Yeah, you know why I just brought this topic up? Because some people might know my history, my working field that I was in before. You might know all the big players who walk around the world saying like, we are the only ones to deliver enterprise open source. And I've read a lot of articles, I've looked at a lot of the little videos and marketing that all the companies do. And in the meantime, they're pretending as if this so-called thing, which is enterprise grade open source, was something super duper special, but really not being disrespectful to anybody in the market, please. But the thing is, this enterprise grade at that point really only means you're buying a piece of software that regularly receives patches and updates to be secure, but you also have some form of support, so somebody you can call if you run into trouble.
Exactly.
Taking this back is, you know, we're using the vanilla projects, but that doesn't stand as paradox to delivering enterprise grade.
Exactly.
But it just means we're taking the most pure form of the open source projects that are out there and delivering them in a way that you can use them securely for your business. So yes, please, at Endpoint, although this is pure open source, although this should and will be very, very community driven, yes, you can use it for your business. And yes, we will help you set everything up so you're up and running for virtually most of the time. 5 nines.
Again, it could happen. It could happen that things are not working as expected. But, you know, with a good open source approach, there's no difference in I don't know, buying from company A or company B with regard to the quality, because it is the same projects that you are using. They might be packaged differently, but what sets apart is basically the openness in the idea of using that. And that is basically where we differentiate from other companies in the market. I do not want to drop any names here, but let me put it this way. Vanilla Stack is the most open platform because it is the open source products without any hiccups, without any limitations. It is the original thing. And that is basically, we do not we do not want to lock somebody in or whatever. It is just the thing that is there. What I did now is I increased the zoom level a bit, and you can basically see that the platform is quite responsive. I do not take credit for that. I hope in like Zoom you are able to read it now properly. If not, I could increase more, but it is ultimately perhaps not then the best thing to do. So what we have here is basically, you know, the endpoint, the Stratos endpoint, the starting point where everything starts. We will leave out those 4 tabs on the top, like applications, marketplace services, and Cloud Foundry, because they are directly related to Cloud Foundry. We will focus on those 4 tabs in the bottom here. And the first tab that I want to show and want to open is the Kubernetes tab, because that is basically where you can have a look at your Kubernetes, where you can understand how many pods are running there, which nodes might be in problems. You can basically see a short summary. We have deployed like 6 nodes here. I just click on them, and then I can see, okay, look, what's basically the amount of pods running there, how much capacity do they have, when have they been started, are they ready, are they able to use, I can even see their IP addresses, and I can work with those things to my liking. If I click on a node, I get a bit more of information here, like obviously the internal name, when was it set up, which operating system, which kernel version, is it ready, has it issues, stuff like that. Everything is great with that node. You can also see like internal annotations used. Annotations are used by Kubernetes to roll out and to steer specific functionalities. You can see the labels there might be even more than might be on the very first screen visible. And then you can basically jump into the pods that are running on that specific node. Pods are those functionalities that are rolled out, the containers, perhaps, so to say. And those pods are the things that ultimately set you apart and that ultimately basically help you to roll out your functionality. You can then go into one of the pods.
Will this
Go ahead.
Will stuff like this substitute kind of other graphical monitoring interfaces like Grafana?
No, they are not meant to do. It is just a very short overview. And as you see, if you, for example, if we click on one of the pods here, you have not many things to interact with. You can basically see a lot of internal information here that might be of interest to you if you are an administrator of that kind. You can actually delete the pod, let me put it that way. I wouldn't do that here because Cilium, for example, is a networking pod and could break things here. But the point is you could do that. And you can actually also see, did we have any restarts? And interestingly enough, that system is running for a month now. And we had 2 restarts of individual pods. Basically, perhaps something went wrong internal condition forced them to restart. The good thing is, and that basically touches back onto what we were discussing when I was trying to get into Stratos there, that basically again touches on the resilience of Kubernetes per se. Those things happen and you just notice them by looking there. But if you want to have more insight, if you want to, for example, look in real time how the load is distributed across the system, if you want to see in real time if things are, are working out properly, you would ultimately then go and use something like Grafana, because it's a specialized tool. For that matter, you would combine that with Prometheus, which basically is able to catch a lot of information and to make it available. So that is ultimately truly a great combination of things. We are, to be honest, we are huge fans of having the best tool for the job and not one size fits all, but specialist tools that do specialist tasks. This is just for giving you an overview.
I think, it's just important because I was at a pretty cool digital event, which was also about cloud native technology. And when I think it was one of the marketing managers of the Cloud Native Foundation, I think it was, shared a link where you could look at all the recent projects that are within the Cloud Native Foundation. I remember seeing that the first time, a couple of years ago, where there were like 5 different areas of tool sets and a couple of logos. And in the meantime, you have to scroll into a zoom of 200 to 300 on your browser that you can see all the different logos. And in the meantime, there'll, for example, just be one department, graphical user interfaces, and everything will be in there. And I think it's getting harder and harder for the end user or for the developers, for the people who create the systems, to actually make a founded choice of which is the best tool. And the actual at that point is, let's be neutral. They're all really, really good. But that leads myself, at least back in my line thinking, to stuff like Vanilla Stack, where we say, listen, we've chosen a certain tool set and we've created a whole stack out of it. This is our line of thinking, our way of thinking. And I think that's really, really great. But that's why I love to talk about kind of these different nuances. We've all heard the names, we've all heard the buzzwords, but there's not very often somebody at the other end who actually explains the differences. So thank you, Karsten.
You're welcome. The point here is basically, again, openness. This one is supposed to just give you an overview. You can look into your cluster configuration. You see your cluster roles here. You can see your namespaces, stuff like that, your persistent volumes, your storage classes, whatever you want to have there. But it is not meant as basically a replacement for things. It would not make sense. And it should not happen because we want to be as open as possible. The openness, and let me touch on the next point here. The openness is actually reflected here in that last point, in that endpoints menu entry. Because what you see here is basically your registered endpoints. Great, nice, but actually not the thing that I want to show. I want to show is what happens if you press the small plus button here, because there you can register a new endpoint. And now let's have a look on at which kind of endpoints and which types of endpoints we can register here. First of all, obviously, Stratos is the tool to manage and maintain Cloud Foundry. You can obviously connect it to an existing Cloud Foundry instance. Keep in mind, I did not say to the Cloud Foundry instance running on that cluster. You can connect to pretty much any Cloud Foundry instance anywhere, as long as you have the rights to do so and as long as you have the credentials. You can basically manage with one Stratos instance dozens, if not hundreds, of Cloud Foundry instances. Next,
I can use Stratos to kind of create one user interface as overlay through all my hybrid systems I'm using.
Yes. Regardless of whether they are running in a public cloud environment, in a hyperscaler environment, or in, I don't know, some sort of private or, you name it, even perhaps Raspberry Pi based environments. The rationale behind that is, or the reason why that is possible is that all of those environments actually just expose APIs. Application programming interfaces, network-based, typically browser, HTTPS-based, that kind of thing. And Stratos is obviously able to understand Cloud Foundry. Then you can get it to, you would basically, I will not do that here, but it's always the same approach. You would basically just go there and click, for example, I just click now on metrics. And if you are a bit into the platform, you know that the metrics logo we've seen here was the Prometheus logo. And Prometheus is one of the core components that we roll out as well. So you can basically just connect directly to your Prometheus instance and have it as a menu point available here. I would not do that here now, but basically you can do that. You can import an already existing kube config. So if you happen to have from a previous installation that you are managing and maintaining, if you happen to have a kube config, just upload it, make it available, and you can manage that cluster from that specific Stratos instance. Or you can go and register with any Kubernetes and vanilla stack instance here. So it gives you basically the chance to see all the status of your existing running Kubernetes and vanilla stack instances. And we will touch on that a bit later as well, to roll out workloads on them from one specific endpoint, from one specific Stratos dashboard. So you can do that. But again, we are open. And the great thing with Stratos is when we touched and when we looked upon Stratos, it was like, whoa, they have exactly the same mindset as we do, because it does not stop here. I go now down a bit, and what we see now is, first of all, you are able to connect to any legacy SUSE CAST platform because it's not existing anymore. It's existing but not sold anymore. But then look at that. Amazon EKS, Azure AKS, or Google Kubernetes Engine. You can even manage the workloads on those platforms from here, from that specific, perhaps just in your private data center existing Stratos instance, you are not supposed and not forced to maintain dozens or hundreds of dashboards. You can have one central dashboard for Azure, Amazon, or Google Kubernetes dialects, I call them. It's more like, I mean, they are ultimately Kuberneteses, but, you know, a bit less powerful than the original, but a bit more integrated into their respective
at that point,
platforms.
you see me sometimes talking very foully about the whole hyperscaler business, but at this point, it makes absolute sense. Why wouldn't I do that? Take the general technology, which is Kubernetes, and then just adapt it to whatever system I'm offering my service within. There, it makes absolute sense. It's not kind of this mini vendor lock. We're trying to bully you into our way of Kubernetes or whatever it is. It's just
not at all.
The best working one. I'd hope if I buy a car from VW that there's a VW motor in it and not a Fiat motor. Both are motors, but I'd rather have the one that's on brand.
Exactly. You could register with a K3s, that's the Edge Kubernetes. So if you roll out one of those, maintain
Why
their
does everyone
workloads.
call it Edge Kubernetes? It's lightweight.
Yeah, because they themselves call themselves to be the Edge solution. And then go a bit away from Kubernetes of any kind towards your workloads. You are able to integrate an existing, again, a multitude, not just one. You can add as many as you want to. Helm repositories. Helm, for those that are not that deep into that, are basically predefined packages. You can create your own packages of workloads. The Kubernetes workload is not just one container and some sort of random infrastructure components. It's typically well curated and consists typically of dozens, if not hundreds, different components, if it's a more complex kind of application. And you don't want to roll out those things component by component or whatever, and you don't want to maintain that. You want to have a simpler way of doing that, and that is basically what Helm is doing. By the way, Helm is an awesome open source project again. You can integrate an existing Helm repository or an existing Helm artifact hub, where you would basically then download and install those things. And you can also integrate with GitHub and GitLab, which is then again very important, for example, with Cloud Foundry, because Cloud Foundry would then just take those sources that are there and roll them out according to your needs. So that is basically but I feel like it's not that. How do I put that? It looks a bit like like underwhelming from that perspective. You have 10, 12 different kind of endpoints you can register. But if you think of that, we touched upon that already, Chris. If you think of that, that is actually the main differentiator of that tool from any other tool in the market. Other tools, be it commercial or be it open source, typically focus on, first of all, maintaining one kind of a thing, such as, Kubernetes configuration management, or say Cloud Foundry management, or metrics management. That is different with Stratos. You have those different kind of things you can integrate in there, and that tool gives us true multi-cluster capabilities. And frankly, from a technical perspective, it's the only way. With Kubernetes currently, a multi-cluster setup is actually supposed to work, because frankly, Kubernetes does not have something like, clusters span across a multitude of other network infrastructures and clusters. There are products on the market, but they typically have sort of security issues with them or other drawbacks. This is the way that allows you to run hundreds of Kubernetes clusters and to maintain them and to operate them from one specific pane. You don't need to have dozens or hundreds of management dashboards. You can do that all from one point. So, and that is basically, from my perspective, the absolute beauty of that. And what you do then, if you, for example, are not into like, let me have a look at my Kubernetes cluster. You know your Kubernetes cluster is just running. You would typically go and work with workloads. And you can do that from here. That's the workloads pane that I just opened. And what you can do is basically you can see here what is rolled out on your Kubernetes cluster. And you can switch your cluster, and you can basically go ahead and filter that to your liking. And you can have one central point of knowing, okay, look, for example, we have Kubernetes dashboard here. What is it? On which cluster is it running? Because we are multi-cluster capable. In which namespace is it? Which version is it? Which Helm chart version has been rolled out? If there's an update, well, look, here's a button, upgrade it. You can do that from that platform here. You can even say live updates, where it would basically check regularly on the Helm repository if there is an update available. And you can then see, again, the whole configuration of that thing. Your question?
Yes. Going away from like all this hybrid multi-cloud, my workload blah-di-da-di-da is everywhere, but taking it back, because you said an interesting word, my namespace. Could I also use a system like Vanilla Stack or just the GUI like Stratos if I'm a vendor that has a lot of different customers that should all run on one cluster, you know, turning this around? I don't want to spread them everywhere. I just want to have all my customers on my one cluster, but in separate entities. Is that possible?
It is. It should be. You can do that. Let me put it that way. I'm a bit
irritated.
No, not irritated. That's basically, but that's a different thing, because you were echoing a lot the past few sentences. No, but I was just thinking of whether you want to do that actually, like having all in one pane. It's more like from maintaining all the customers from one central component. Sounds like a great thing. But how do I put that? There could be scenarios where I would perhaps not want to do that. Basically, all of those scenarios are supported. You can do that centrally, or you can say, okay, I could, for example, roll out a second instance that is then connected to other endpoints to just give different access levels there. So all of those things would be possible. If you are a provider that wants to run like dozens or hundreds of customers in different namespaces, that's perfectly supported here. That was not the point where I was starting to slow down for a second. It was more like I was thinking if that is perhaps or has implications in security, stuff like that. So, but yeah, you can definitely do that. Well, and you should perhaps do that.
We just talked. Yeah, we talk so much, you know, about these widespread workloads and geo-redundant, blah, 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 whatever it is, somewhat scale me anywhere. But that's factually not my problem, probably our Cloudical customers or anybody else's customers, because I have a business and my business has customers, and what I'm actually trying to do is gain control, centralized way of the multitude of workflows,
here's
functionality that my customers are using.
Here's your tool.
And that's why I find it so very, very interesting. You know, that we started today with saying I have a centralized login, or a centralized interface, which at that point is Stratos. Within Stratos, I can take a lot of different endpoints wherever they may be as kind of second level, which is I'll put up a cluster somewhere and make it running. And then on the very end level, have an actual application that the customer will be using. But
you just seen Chris, you've just seen me opening a second window here. where I currently have Keycloak open. And I just want to use your thought to basically jump away from Stratos for a very short second and to showcase you and to show you the back end there, because what you just said and what you just pointed out and where you were just basically looking upon was additional things such as user management, such as rights and roles, stuff like that. And that then again is actually already and willingly part of the whole package. In fact, Stratos is deeply connected with the Keycloak that we roll out on the platform. That was basically most of the work we had to do there, because Stratos typically has its own independent user management, and we've changed that towards using Keycloak. And why did we do that? We did that because we wanted, and we have rolled it out, and we wanted to provide the customers with that central user management that they could use to maintain applications for dozens, hundreds, thousands of users and customers from one central point. So if you look at, for example, a typical hyperscaler setting where you would have your, I don't want to drop any names, but you would have your Active Directory where you would then add your cloud users or your cloud customers in there so they could authenticate to your platform. Well, here you can do the same. You have it with your own Manila Stack cluster. You have it under control. And if you are, for example, into, say, I want to if you are, for example, into already having like things like Active Directory or stuff like that, you can actually even add additional providers for user federation, which is basically then your option to add, for example, LDAP-based systems or Kerberos-based systems. And you can basically then go ahead and add a lot of additional identity providers that give you the opportunity to connect and authenticate with a multitude of platforms. So the point I'm trying to make is you have that functionality here, and even the internal tools that we are rolling out with the platform are using the same kind of functionality. They are made and they are set up and they are laid out in a way that they would allow you as a customer to run whatever you want to do there, to authenticate whatever you want to do there. You can basically go ahead if you are the administrator of the platform. You can basically go ahead and even create additional realms, which are basically like independent sections where users reside independently of each other, which can be used for different applications, stuff like that. That's all done with Keycloak. And by the way, you know what? Keycloak is then again an awesome open source project. It is just another example of truly a great open source kind of thinking. We've taken an already existing truly great project and did all the hard work for our customers to set it up, to roll it out, to integrate it, and they just can use it. So that is why I wanted to touch upon Keycloak. And we have been here, for example, with the workload. You know what? I'm pretty sure if I would find and would look for the right namespace or for the right in the right platform here, I could actually find Keycloak somewhere here, because ultimately Keycloak is again workload we've rolled out. So you can use it, you can adjust it, you can integrate with that. It's all there. And again, what we don't do is lock you in. Allow me to finish that sentence. What we don't do is to lock.
Oh yeah.
we have a slight delay in our communication. Allow me to finish that sentence. What we don't do is we don't lock you in, because, and I give you the word in a few seconds. But if you then again go to that workloads page, you can actually. I need to look for the the way of doing that from here. You can actually add additional workloads to that. And if you say you don't want to use Keycloak for your own applications, well, roll out, for example, Citadel, a great open source and community-driven project. It's able to run on Vanilla Stack as is, without any issues. So we are not locking you in. We just give you something that is already working. And that was what I wanted to say.
Which is again a benefit of open source and using the vanilla projects. It's not that we've made very, very incremental changes that are then kind of our secret sauce and we won't tell anybody about it. But anything other that is also a standard or that is also an open source project has a very, very high chance of running out of the box. Because that's the way open source works, because we work via global standards and APIs and try to be as interoperable as we can.
Exactly. And let me showcase you how easy and simple it is to roll out something on the platform. First of all, we have registered here a specific Helm repository that we maintain. If I said it up front, but if you happen to have a different, another Helm repository, even if you want to just quotation marks, add the official Helm repositories, go ahead, do that in that Endpoints tab. You can just do that. We don't lock you in there. In our Helm repository that we use here for that demo system, we have, for example, Nextcloud, and Nextcloud is truly a great product, but it needs to have, if you just set it traditionally, it involves a lot of steps. What if I tell you that I would be able to roll out and make available a Nextcloud in the remaining 3 minutes of this webcast? Start the timer. So it's 2 minutes. Yeah, no pressure then. So what do we do? The first step is we needed to look up. We needed to look for that chart. I've came across that, and now I see a lot of parameters here that I would perhaps need to work with. How do I put that? I looked up the most important ones already. If I click now on install chart, I would first of all select the Kubernetes cluster to install it to. Again, you can have as many Kubernetes clusters as you want to have. Then I give my new installation a name. I call it Nextcloud, and I either select or create. I did that several times already, but I either select or create a new namespace. In that case, I create a new one because I want to separate it from other things. I now click on next, and now comes the thing where you would basically have to have a bit of knowledge, and we cannot take that away, although we will provide you with way more simplicated YAML files that need to be added over time. But what I just do now is I just enable ingress, and I go down and say, okay, the name of that thing is, the DNS name is Nextcloud Backend Vanilla Stack Cloudical Net, because Backend Vanilla Stack Cloudical Net is the name of the DNS name of my cluster. I just press the install button, and you know what? Even while I'm talking, you will see that thing is going to change from container creating to running within the next few seconds. Done. And now could still need some time.
Minutes exactly.
Now I open the website, and there we go. We now log on with the default credentials. I did not change that. It's not via SSL, stuff like that. But you know what the point is? It's truly a simple way of rolling it out. If there would be a new chart available, I would just press the upgrade button. It would look for it, and then it would give me a chance to upgrade it. And if I feel like, yeah, you know what, Nextcloud is not my kind of thing, I want to have own cloud or whatever, I just press the delete button, enter the name of my deployment, press delete, and you know what? It's gone. And that is the beauty of that tool here. That is the beauty of what we have with Stratos. And that is the beauty of why we are so happy to have it in place, to have it available, and why we took all the work to integrate. And that was the main work. We did not needed to adjust the platform. We just needed to integrate it. That's why we did the heavy work of integrating it, why the team spent hours and hours, weekends over weekends to make that happen, because it is just awesome. Even a guy like me, who has literally no understanding of technology, can do that. That was, by the way, fishing for compliments. You could have reacted in a different way. But the point is,
wow.
It is simple.
Impressed.
It is truly simple doing that. And you know what, Chris? I feel like that pretty much and pretty awesomely round up, because we've introduced the vanilla manager. We have showcased an error. We have solved that error. Again, if there are any kind of questions, reach out to us, reach out to Cloudical, reach out using our websites, whatever. We will happily help you day in, day out, and even on the weekends, although Chris is perhaps not the most happiest guy having to work on a weekend, but he is happily there to support. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you know what you showcase there is actually everyday business. You know, you try to set something up, it doesn't go right. Then in the best case, you have somewhere to fall back on and say, hey, crap, this is not working. In our case, hey, crap, we're online, we're live, you know, this is the internet. Please make this happen. And it did. We basically very, very well proved the fact, kind of the story I was telling at the beginning. What is enterprise open source, you know, if not exactly what we showcased here? I don't need the kind of the big brand and the official stamp and whatever it is, but what we do.
But you know what, Chris, sorry to interrupt you there. It is the big brand because it is the original thing that we are using. So it is actually the thing in a way it is meant to be, and not slimmed down, not vendor locked, and not, I don't know, stripped down to just work in a specific kind of environment. It works everywhere, and it has those awesome open source tools in them. And you know what my last thought is, I'm so proud of the team that has created Vanilla Stack and that has driven it forward and that has brought it to where it is now. I couldn't be prouder because that was a true team effort, a true community effort. And before we get out of this webinar, I just want to ask everybody being interested to join the team working on Vanilla Stack. It is an open source project. You can contribute. You can basically jump in. You can support us. You can criticize us. You can help us out. Feel free to do that. Just reach out, get in touch, and we get you on board. So, Chris, thanks for being my partner today. Was my pleasure. Thanks for all of those who watched the show, be it on Zoom, be it live on the internets of this world. And the next webinar is coming anytime soon. Chris, see you later.
I have nothing to add.
Then let's enjoy the evening, everyone.